Michelle about putting the speaker before a few other activities. But we're all winners. You may have noticed I stepped out because I knew she would say we're all winners, so I didn't need to be in the hat lined up. But congratulations to all of you, because you are winners. How about applauding for one another? I do want to honor the co-founders of this event, and I want you to know how I met Ann Michelle and Fabian. Somewhere along the way, I met Fabian earlier, but about 3 years ago, when I attended the Violet Love event, I connected with them. And I got that connection through our friends of 45 years. I don't know if you have any friends you've had for that long, but the last name is Long. Reverend Linwood Long, would you hold your hand, and Sister Barbara Long. We thank God for it. A few weeks ago, I met with Ann Michelle and Fabian and asked, what do you think those gathered will need to hear today? And they said, at least my takeaway was, that you need to hear something related to hope, because we need to keep hope alive. And we need to hear something related to joy. And be clear, when I speak of joy, I am not talking about happiness. There is a difference.
All right.
In times like these, we must be able to have a strength that does not just come from ourselves or from one another, but a strength that comes from above. So this message is about giving and receiving hope and joy. Before I share these points about hope and joy, you saw the man whose hand I kissed. I've been with him for 47 years, so I have a license to kiss his hand. That's my husband. Would you raise your hand, please? I have a daughter and a granddaughter. They could not be here today because the granddaughter, 10 years old, competes in gymnastics. And they are on their way back from Georgia competing in a regional gymnastics contest. But of course, they wish us all well. Would you imagine with me now, Dr. Maya Angelou walking in this room, talking about the phenomenal woman. I'm not going to get into all that she would say, but just imagine Dr. Angelou walking in here. I'm just going to share with you a quote that relates to this message because it speaks to us today. She said, "My mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive, and to do so with some passion, some compassion, some humor, and some style."
All right.
I just quoted Dr. Angelou. And these words are important for us because the storms of life keep on raging. And that sometimes some of us really can't tell the night from day. But we have a testimony that we have an assurance that's in us that causes us to keep on pressing on. Can anybody here identify with that? I hope so. So we can keep on believing. A lot has been happening. We have life stories. And I want to share with you just some tidbits of my life story. So there will be 3 highlights from my childhood, from my teen years, and my adult years. I want you to take away the title of this message. It's called Hats. And when I say hats in a room like this, I know you are thinking literally. I'm talking about hats. I am not. When I met with Ann Michelle and Phoebe for lunch, on my way home, I was pondering what they said. And I was praying about what they said. And hats came to me. And I thought, hats? I need a connection here, Lord, a little bit of help. And what came was, help another to survive. Help another to survive. So, we're looking beautiful, we're having fun, but we have even a greater mission here today. So let me just get into these highlights and I'll make the connection later. When I was a child, even before my teen years, I knew I was not no ordinary barnyard bird. If you have not heard that phrase, it means when somebody says, I'm not an ordinary barnyard bird, it means you're different. You're not the typical. So I knew that. My father would tell a story that would embarrass my mother. He said he was very glad to have a son, but he wanted a daughter. So they prayed before they do what people do to get babies. And I am the result of that prayer. So I hope you thank God for that. I do. But I knew I had a purpose in life. I didn't know the purpose. I just had to keep on living. And as one pastor says, and life be lifing. So I'm not telling you all the life be lifing stories, but each of us has some of those stories. During my teen years, I was a 4-H club girl. Now, some of you, I'm sure more of you, were Girl Scouts. In my rural community, we did not have Girl Scouts. Plus, that was a time of segregation. But we had a county agent, Mr. Freedom B. Good, and that was his real name. He had a mission to work with teenagers and other youth so that we would not just survive during those teen years, but when we got to be adults, that we could thrive. Is there anybody here who knows the 4-H Club pledge? Anybody? Am I the only one in the house? Oh, I see a hand over there. Great. Does anybody know the 4-H motto? Sister, you should. Let me help you out, sister. No, she don't everybody else. So the 4-H pledge that influenced me is this. I pledged my head to clearer thinking, my heart to greater loyalty, my hands to larger service, and my health to better living for my club, my community, and my country. And then the motto is make the best better. So, I had people in my life who did not just talk the talk, but they walked the walk. And as a result of that, they provided for me a lot of opportunities. When I was in school, My picture was in the local paper with President Lyndon Baines Johnson, and you know the history of all of that. But to have a little black girl's picture in the paper did something for me, other young people, and the wider community. These people who talk the talk and who did not just walk the walk also took me out of my comfort zone, my little rural community, and took me to places like New York and Michigan, and they may have as well taken me to another country, because that was an expansion of my whole world. I was tutored by the daughter of the man for which my school was named. And she tutored me on how to recite poetry dramatically. For example, the creation. I can picture her now saying to me how to enunciate and take your time and say every word. And God stepped out on space. And God looked around and he said, I'll make me a world. And as far as the eye of God could see, blackness covered everything. Blacker than 100 midnights down in a cypress swamp. And God smiled. And the light broke. And the darkness rolled up on one side. And the light stood shining on the other. And God said, that's good. So I spent my Sunday afternoons at churches reciting poetry. That was quite an experience. But all of that influenced my adult life. When I got to choose a major in college and to choose certain other experiences, I had the opportunity to go to Ghana, West Africa. Dr. Lawrence Clark at NC State University would take faculty and staff and students to West Africa. That was an experience that changed my whole worldview, because you know the history books did not accurately tell our history or Africa's history. When I got back from Africa, I wanted everything Afrocentric. I was in the College of Textiles, so particularly when it came to my clothing, I didn't want polka dots, plaid, paisley, gingham, none of that. I wanted African prints and batiks and tie-dye and kente cloth, because I have seen how my people could be so creative. Even this dress, about 25 years old, was made in Ghana, West Africa. Why don't we applaud the creativity of people? Well, I'm about halfway through. If any of you have ever given a speech, you know there's a lot more preparation that goes into what you do than the actual time you have to give it. It's sort of like cooking. You put a lot of preparation into that cooking, and it may not turn out exactly the way you want it to, but you keep on cooking. So I need you to help me keep on cooking.
All right.
And that is by asking me a question, because I have 3 major points now. And the question is, what's your point, Brenda? Here's your first chance.
What's your point, Brenda?
I'm glad you asked. My first point is that to take time to think on whatever is good.
All right.
I have compound points. So that's the first part of it. Think on whatever is good.
Okay.
And then honor the people who help and who helped you. That's important as well. In telling my story to you, you heard that people helped me, and I'm glad about it. Michelle Obama speaks to us now. And she says to us, we've got a responsibility to live up to the legacy of those who came before us. By doing that, we can to help those who come after us. We do have that responsibility. What's my question?
What's your point, Brenda?
My second point, and I'm glad you asked, is that we need to guide people to make the best better. That's the first part. Guide people to make the best better. And the second part, it's because we are blessed to be a blessing. Back in the day, as my grandchildren would say, we didn't find people in the community. We would say, that's my advisor, that's my coach, that's my mentor. But we are being called these days to serve as advisors, as coaches, and as mentors. Back in the day also, the way we would look at a coach, it was somebody related to sports. But today we have a much greater calling to people. What's my question? I'm glad you asked this. Third and last point is we need to use our 4 H's to hats. We need to use our heads, our hearts, our hands, and our health to help people to survive.
All right.
And the second part of that is know that we'll reap what we sow. This event has an underlying mission. You can't beat the giving to a good underlying mission. I want to connect an experience I had recently to this particular point. I bought some black mulch to put around the trees at our house. And I had put 3 bags of the mulch in the lime green yard waste can. I put a couple of the bags around the trees. I was about to roll that can to put the mulch around another tree. I looked up and I saw a man, and his face was just so friendly. I did not recall seeing him before, but his face just said, throw your hands up, girl, and wave at the man. Anyway, he waved back, and I put my hands on the trash can, leaned it back to roll it. The lid on the trash can was back. I stepped on the lid with it leaning back, and my head went in the trash can. You may laugh. Everybody else I have told that story laughed. So here I am with my head in the trash can, and both the trash can and I are down on the ground. So the man rushes over, and he says, are you okay? And I said, yes. That's why I tell my husband I don't like to work in the yard while he's out, because we might have an accident and need some help. So the man said, let me help you. And I thought, no, this work is over. But he did help me put that last bag around. And he said, I don't walk down this street, but for some reason I walked down this street today. And I believe it's because I needed to help somebody. And he said, and it's because you help people. I heard what he said, but I'm thinking, I don't know you and you don't know me. So the next morning, I go back to my mulching. The man comes down the street, and I go over and thank him. And he says to me, I don't walk down this street, but God had me walk down this street to help you. And that's because you help people. And I said to him this time, because I thought it the last time, you don't know me. So how can you say that? And the man looked up to the sky and said, God knows. So, we reap what we sow.
Yes, sir.
And God has a special way of blessing us like that. So while we're still walking on earth and not in that surface under the earth, I believe we need to take away today. Let's make every effort to help somebody not only to survive, but to thrive. And to do it with some passion, some compassion, some humor, and some style. I believe that everybody in here can help another to survive. Well, dearly beloved, we are gathered here, and it's almost time for us to leave here. And in closing, I just want to remind you that though the storms of life might keep on raging, and sometimes you won't even be able to tell the night from the day. But still, we ought to have a hope within us that assures us that we can keep our eyes on the distant shore. And we ought to know that there is one available to help us, who will lead us safely to that blessed place that is already prepared for us, where we don't have to be anxious about surviving or thriving. And I'm going to close with this message from Langston Hughes. It was written for mothers, a message mothers to sons. But this is for all of us here today. So I'm saying to you, well, friends, I'll tell you, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It's had tacks in it, and splinters, and boards torn up, and places with no carpet, on the floor bare. But all the time, I spent climbing and reaching landings and turning corners and having a hat fall off while I try to do it. And it will not have its way. And sometimes going in the dark where there ain't been no light. So friends, don't you turn back. Don't you sit down on the steps, because you find it's kind of hard. Don't you fall now. And I'm still climbing, honey. I'm still climbing. And life for me ain't been no crystal stair. But because of that, I'm going to help another to survive. I hope you will do the same. God bless you.